So take us through your thoughts on what you've seen in the world of compliance so far this year. What's on your radar?
One of the most important things that businesses are now having to look at as part of their ISO standardization is the environment. It's a cultural shift really that you can see from kind of a light touch or environmental. For the environmental standard is not a light touch, but the rest of the standards didn't have environment mentioned in them, whereas over a year ago now, an environment clause was included into clause 4 for all of the standards.
Okay, it's becoming more part of the conversation.
It is far more part of the conversation. The other kind of thing that we're seeing as well is the shift over to kind of social and governance. Businesses are now kind of being expected to integrate environmental, social and governance into core operations, and also they're required to have very clear and transparent available reporting. The requirement as well is also kind of going over to how they're engaging with their local communities, and that can include anything from sponsoring different things around the community, along with work placement schemes for the local community, and also from the perspective of going out into the community to let them know what this business does. So I suppose there's one of the other things that we're seeing as well is, globalization, and kind of bringing some harmony there to the standards. It makes it a little bit easier for businesses now to not only be global, and yes, they do need to comply with local legislation. Some of it is very different, but some of it is beginning to kind of harmonize, whereby if you are compliant with your example, again, EU GDPR, if you're compliant with that in Ireland, if you take a look at the UK GDPR, there's very little difference, and as such, you'd be compliant there as well. It's hard to believe that there are people out there who sit there and this is what they do all day, is they look for vulnerabilities in people's or in businesses' networks. It's effectively, this continuous monitoring and proactive threat detection in real time is quite necessary, because you wouldn't leave your front door open to your own home. So kind of as an example, one of the most important things and one of the simplest things is shutting down your computer at night. If you're not doing that, or your employees are not doing that, it's almost a open door for, I wouldn't even say shoppers, because they don't have to pay for it. So we're finding the regulations are becoming far more strict around data protection, particularly where cross-border transfers of data is concerned, and the ethical usage of the data that's being transferred. And so there are a very firm set of parameters there that need to be abided by to ensure that the business doesn't walk itself into a non-conformity within a standard, so 27,000, but also to avoid quite significant penalties, financial penalties, which if kind of some smaller businesses ended up in this particular boat of finding themselves with a data breach that they haven't reported, could find themselves with an extraordinarily hefty fine.
What have you found with, in your role and what you see of our industry of AI and how that's changing things?
Well, I think AI has a place in just about everything that we do. My view is that I have an extraordinarily healthy respect, along with a fear, I suppose, really. I see it a little bit like I do water. Water is lovely if you're swimming in it and you can swim, but if you can't swim and, you're in a lot of trouble if you don't know how to use water, if you will. So, look, I think AI used healthily, it's going to be a game changer for how businesses operate. And the AI regulation and the AI ISO standard will help to get businesses utilizing AI in the correct way that it'll benefit their business, but that the mitigatory measures are in place to ensure that the risk that's associated with the usage of AI is looked at and mitigated to its nth degree, really. Kind of as well, I mentioned earlier on that businesses are now being asked to look at their third parties and their interested parties, if you will, whether that be suppliers or you're supplying to. Kind of vendor management is coming in under interested parties' needs and expectations. And that is effectively, it is for the environment at the minute. It's also extending to corporate responsibility, but it will extend, obviously, and is being done so in the 27,001 arena. How are you using your information? How are you protecting the information that you have about us? How are we protecting the information we have about you? And this will also transfer into AI in time, whereby your supply chain risk management is front and center for how your suppliers are using AI. And if it is as safeguarded and healthy as your own usage of it as a business. Strategic risk management is very, it's key to any business's success. Key risk indicators kind of are used to track kind of predicted risk and possible future risk, kind of against actual risk. And also you need to factor in your detection times, recurring patterns, and also how you're going to proactively mitigate. And in the event that that proactive mitigation in a certain circumstance doesn't actually work the way it's supposed to, you need to have, any business needs to have a kind of recovery plan. And that's one of the things as well that's very important when it comes to dealing with your internal and external stakeholders, is that everybody is doing the same kind of application of risk management. And further to that, when that risk management possibly doesn't work, what recovery plan do you have for that? As part of the business continuity management systems, it's not just about what is your recovery plan, it's how long does it take to put into action, and once put into action, how soon are you going to have operations back and running the way they were before you had any kind of a breach. So I think for businesses who are out there getting standardized with ISO certifications, one of the crucial standards is 22301, which is the business continuity. We've had financial crashes in 2008. We've had kind of, they roll on a cycle, and we have geopolitical issues at the minute that are affecting just about every business in the world. And when you say geopolitical, usually we'd be talking about one thing, possibly two, but we're talking about multiple events going on globally all at the same time. And if a business isn't affected by it now, at this moment in time, they very likely will be in the future. And it's critical that they've taken a look at kind of disaster recovery, event recovery, incident recovery, accident recovery, because if it does come for their business in any way, it's not going to, I mean, everybody's aware that at the moment things are extraordinarily tense. Markets are very out of place. There's no settle there at all. And when that's the case, eventually it will have some impact somewhere on a business, whether it's direct or indirect. And I think that for people who want to ensure the longevity and the success of their business, they need to start looking at those things sooner rather than later.